Welcome, everybody. We are so glad to have you here tonight. I did want to let you know that we are recording tonight's presentation or our panel discussion because we want to make sure that those that aren't able to be here can watch it later. You are welcome to have your camera on if you would like, or you're welcome to have it off. We just ask that all of you have yourself muted so we don't catch any background noise. My name is Jenny Hanlon, and I am a parent, family, and child educator through Stillwater ECFE, and I'm actually a graduate too. A couple of us were just talking about how often that seems to happen in Stillwater. I attended Anderson Elementary School, which was formerly called Bayport when I went to school. I have two children who are 20 and 21, and they went through Stillwater School, Stonebridge, Stillwater Middle School, and the high school, and they just had phenomenal experiences with all of their teachers and their schools, and they are just, I would say, thriving at college and in life. And of course, so much of that has to do with the experiences that they had in school and with their teachers, but really a lot also has to do with how we were able to support them as parents. And so thank you to all of you parents for being engaged in your child's learning and coming to take part in this discussion so you can help best support your kiddos as they make this exciting transition to kindergarten. I am going to go ahead and share my screen, and then I am going to introduce you to one of our guests, and I'll introduce you to the rest of them in just a little bit. Chris, can you tell me, are you seeing the screen as it should be? Okay. Yep. Wonderful. Chris Kriesel is here with us tonight. She is our marketing coordinator, and she has a couple slides she would like to go through with us as we start the night, and then we'll move into our panel introductions and then our panel questions after that.
Sounds good.
To Chris.
Just wanted to thank everyone for being here. It's such an exciting time when you have a kindergartner, and I was in your shoes about 20 plus years ago, and I have two kids who are now 28 and 25, and they went to ECFE classes at Stillwater. They went to Lily Lake, Stillwater Middle School, and then graduated from the high school. And I also went to Stonebridge myself. My parents forced me to move to Wisconsin, and I didn't like that because I wanted to be a pony. But I was a chieftain instead, so that was okay. But pony pride does run deep in this area, and you'll feel that a lot, whether you're originally from here or a transplant. And we welcome everyone here. And we're very excited for you, and especially with the first time, right? Like, it's a little bit nervous. You don't know what to expect. So we decided to have this meeting because a lot of people have questions. So we will just watch a short little video of what a typical day in kindergarten is like.
Awesome, thank you.
We love kindergarten.
So
Sorry.
that's one of my favorite parts of my job, is to get out and see all the kids in the classroom, and how much they learn is just incredible at that age. And the teachers can tell you more about that, but just witnessing it, it's quite amazing. So I don't know if all of you have received a packet in the mail from us. I'm assuming you did, or maybe you heard about this meeting on social media or something. But if you didn't get a packet, let us know in the comments and we can get you one. But you should already have this kindergarten checklist. Starting this month already, and next month there are school tours that the schools are having on various dates. You can find the information on our website. If those dates don't work, you can always set up your own school tour. And that's where you can meet with the principal and get a look around. And that's just meant for adults only. January 15th is when we would like you to enroll by. That helps us with our planning for the next year with staffing and that kind of stuff. And you will need a copy of your birth certificate. And many of you may have already submitted your applications, but if you haven't done so, please do that by January 15th. If you've applied for alternate enrollment, and that means if you live in the Stonebridge boundary, but you want your student to go to Rutherford, that's called alternate enrollment. And so you have to have a special request for that. And some people may be trying to get into the Spanish immersion program. If you apply for that, you will be finding out that as well at the end of January, if those requests were able to be made. And then coming up on April 3rd and 4th will be kindergarten orientation, where the students come and they get to meet the teachers, and it's a really fun time for them. They get a T-shirt that will say "Class of 2038," which always makes me feel really old every year when I order those shirts. It's hard to believe. So that's the kindergarten checklist. The next thing I want to briefly mention is Adventure Club. That's our before and after school care program. And they're busy planning for next year. Next year, our school start times are going to be 7:45-ish to 2:15. It still depends on busing, but it should be within 5 minutes or so. And so if you think you may need before or after school care, they want you to fill out an interest form that you can find on our website, stillwaterschools.org/AC. And it just gives an indication whether you may or may not use it. It's not tying you to it, but if you think you might need it in any way, shape, or form, we highly encourage you to fill that out. And then that will get you on the list for further communication of what you need to do to get into that program. Next slide. Also, before the first day, you want to schedule your early childhood screening. That's done at the Early Childhood Family Center. Many people probably already have it done. We usually recommend starting at age like 3.5. We send out postcards to people, and that just is a screen that we do that looks at like eyesight, different hand-eye coordination. There's a bunch of different stuff that they look at. And if they see any things they might be concerned with, they will talk to you and set up services if you might need that. But that is required by state law to have that done before kindergarten. So many of you may have already done that. Then there's also a school health exam. This isn't just your regular go to the doctor exam. It's specifically for school health exam, and they will fill out a form that you will need to turn in. The doctor can fill it out for you. You'll also need to have immunizations up to date, or if you have a waiver, have that signed. And you need to submit both the immunization record and the school health exam form at least 1 week prior to the first day. You know, if you have it done now, turn it in, but I know many of you probably don't have all the immunizations done yet. So that might be more of a spring, summer thing, but better to get it in earlier than later. It just helps us with paperwork and things. And then we have something called Ready, Set, Go conferences that are the week before school actually starts. And you'll be getting more information on that, but that's just the time, and the teachers can maybe talk more to this, but they meet with the student, do like a brief little assessment, get to know them a little bit, get the kid comfortable in meeting them. And it's just kind of a mini check-in with the teacher before school starts.
Sorry, I saw a face I recognized, so I was waving. Chris. Look, I'm not trying to wave you to tell you something.
Oh, I didn't even notice.
Okay.
So you can find all this information on our website, or if you have any questions, you can email me at the comments email address, or ask Jenny, ask the teachers. I'm sure anyone would be happy to answer questions, but most of the info you should be able to get at our website there, but we're always happy to go deeper if we need to.
And just a reminder with or a follow-up to what Chris said, if you did not get that kindergarten enrollment packet in the mail, to either put a note in the chat, or you can contact enrollment through our school district. And, you know, for whatever reason, if you didn't get it, it just happens sometimes. So, but definitely let us know so we can make sure that we get that information to you. So thank you, Chris, for all of that fantastic information. Welcome to those of you that just hopped on. I'm going to first start by introducing the kindergarten teachers that are here with us tonight, and then I will introduce the parents that are here to give some fantastic information as well. Now, just so you know, on Google Meet, we don't have the ability to like change how our name shows up. So you'll see Nicholas Costa sitting next to his wife, Birgitta. They are both kindergarten teachers in our district. Birgitta Costa is a kindergarten teacher at Brookview Elementary School, and Nick is a kindergarten teacher at Anderson Elementary School. I am grateful to all three of our teachers that are able to be here tonight, but I am especially grateful to the two of them because they have a 6-month-old baby and they've been teaching kindergarten all day. So just show some gratitude to them for being willing to give a little extra time tonight. Our other kindergarten teacher is Kim Nelson, who is a kindergarten teacher at Anderson Elementary School. She's not showing up on my screen right now, but I did just see her a minute ago. So I know she's here, and I am really excited that you'll have a chance to hear from all three of these fantastic teachers tonight. Our parent panel, the first one is Tati. Tati has a daughter at Lake Elmo, yes, at the Spanish immersion.
Amigos Unidos.
Thank you. And then Brandon has a son at Lily Lake, and both of those two have kindergartners. And then Erin, I had asked her last year if she could help out with this, but she was going on a fantastic trip at that time. So I reached out again. I'm like, hey, even though you have a first grader now and one entering kindergarten next year, would you be interested in doing that? So Erin is here and has a first grader at Stonebridge, but then we'll have a kindergartner next year as well. I would like to start with the parents, and I think Tati, I will put you on the spot first. Can you parents tell us a little bit about your family's transition to kindergarten?
Hi, my name is Tati Smith, and I have my little girl whose name is Joanna. She goes to Lake Elmo, Amigos Unidos Spanish immersion. The transition was amazing for us, very positive. Thanks to Miss Jenny, ECFE, that helped us a lot. And then we also signed her up for preschool. So those programs helped us a lot and helped my daughter to transition so well to kindergarten. So preschool, she did it at Lake Elmo too. So she was very familiar with the school when she started kindergarten. She knew the playground, she knew the whole building. And we also did met with the principal a couple times. We met with a teacher, and actually a couple of her friends from preschool are currently going to school with her. So that helps a lot. So her transition, I have to say that it was like a positive transition. And it was just like, for us, the parents, we were like, it's ready for her to go to school. It's time for her to go to school. So we were like not nervous at all. So it was easier for us. But yes, but it was, thank you to Miss Jenny, ECFE, and for the preschool program too. Yes.
Thank you. How about you, Brandon?
Yeah, it went pretty smooth for us as well. We were lucky because our son Julian, he went to pre-K at Lily Lake, so he was already familiar with the layout and with the style of learning and the teachers and things. So overall, it went smooth. I think our one challenge that we had for the transition was just that when he went into kindergarten, none of his friends from pre-K were in his class, and so he had to kind of start uh, fresh, and so it was a little bit of a transition there. But the teachers were great at kind of helping him to initiate new friendships, and it took a couple of months, but now he comes home all the time talking about all of his friends that he has, and so now he has new friends.
And that's helpful to say too, because there will be many kids that didn't go through the school district preschool, and so just good to know that there are going to be many kids in children's classes that won't know each other, and it's not like they'll all have instant friends right away. So thank you, Brandon, for sharing that. Erin, how about you? How did it go for Otto?
It went really good. He is definitely ready to go, so that made it easier. He didn't do preschool at Stonebridge. He went to the children's farm. So that's one thing that I was nervous about, was that he wouldn't know the school as well as some kids. But he was able to jump in pretty easy. And all the teachers and the principal, especially at Stonebridge, is like outstanding, knows every single kid's name. So that's kind of helped like welcome them into the school. And then like the kindergarten orientation day was really helpful to get into the school. The principal did a presentation. The kids are kind of off on their own. So got to see where everything is. And then the Ready, Set, Go also kind of helped get us ready.
Awesome. Thank you. We had that same experience at Stonebridge. Mr. Berg, I feel like if my kids walked into there now, he would, and they're 20 and 21, I feel like he would still recognize them and remember things about them. So that's pretty special when a principal is able to make those connections with kids. So now we're going to switch over to the kindergarten teachers. Now, I know we got to see that video of what a typical day looks like. So don't feel like you have to repeat all of that. But Nick or Birgitta, would you two one of you start with just kind of a typical day? And again, if you repeat some of the things in the video, that's totally fine.
Sure. So a day starts with them either showing up for breakfast or showing up and coming straight to the classroom. If your child does do breakfast, they would do it, at least at our school, they do it in the cafeteria, and then they come down to the classroom right after that. And then we gather as a class and have a morning meeting, which is something based out of Responsive Classroom, which is just a classroom management style that our district follows. And so we do a morning meeting, which is a time when the kids can kind of, if they've had a rough morning or an exciting morning or a sad morning or a tired morning, they can kind of reset and just get ready for the school day. So we greet each other, we share something about ourselves, we do an activity, and we have a morning message that kind of gets us set up to start our day. And then in my classroom, at least, we do literacy after that. So we do a phonics curriculum, we do a phonemic awareness, is that what you call it, curriculum. And then we also do reading after that. And then we head to lunch. At our school, they have lunch first, and then they have recess. And then they come back to the classroom and typically have a sort of quiet time. Not a nap, but just a quiet time to relax the brain. The sounds might be soothing, or the lights might be off. They might be doing some sort of coloring or looking at books. And then we get back into academics where, in my classroom at least, we do some handwriting, and then we do some math. And we talk about the calendar, the days of the week, the months of the year, what's coming up in our classroom. So this year's really exciting, or this month's pretty exciting. We've got a Culver's fundraiser coming up. We've got gingerbread houses that we're making at the end of the month, and they were counting down the days, and they can see that on the screen. We practice some math skills within our calendar, and then we get into our math lesson. And then they will go to a specialist. A specialist means they go to a different classroom in the school, and they either have Phy-Ed, music, art, or media, which is library. And they'll do that for 40 minutes. And with another teacher, and then they come back to our room. And in my classroom, we either are switching off between social studies or science. So the way my team does it, we do social studies for a couple weeks, and then we do science for a couple weeks. And then in kindergarten, I find it's very important, and my team finds it's very important that they have time to play and have social interactions, problem solving times, and things like that. So that would be at the end of the day in my room. It's for the last 20 or so minutes. They can play and go to different areas of my classroom. And then we have a closing circle, which is another responsive classroom piece, just to kind of bring our day to an end. We might say what was our favorite part. We might share something we liked about the day, and pack up and head home.
All right, Nick or Kim, anything that you'd like to add?
Yeah, I'll just add, I saw somebody ask a question in the chat about what time lunch is served and if there's snack between breakfast and home, school/lunch. Lunch is not the exact same for all schools, but it is around the same time. So at Anderson, the kindergartners eat lunch at 11 o'clock. We could do recess first. So they go to recess at 10:40 and they come back in at 11 and eat. And I think most schools eat around that time, around 11 o'clock or so. And then just depending on how a schedule works out, there is always a snack, but they will not always be at the same time. So at Anderson, we eat our snack around 1:30, 1:15-ish. Other schools might do it around 12:15. Other schools might do it around 2. It just depends on how their schedule works out. But all schools do have a snack time at some point during the day. But otherwise, I think Begita described it pretty well. So.
Okay, thank you. Anything you'd like to add, Kim? Oh, we can't hear you, Kim.
Oh, her.
Oh, we can't. Sorry, Kim, we can't hear you. Sorry. Okay, yep, you can type it in the chat and we can read it there. Let's do one more question, and we'll until Kim's able to get the sound working.
Does it work now?
Oh yeah, yes it does.
Just had to click on it. Yeah, found the button.
There you go. That's right.
Well, they've described it really well as what does happen during the typical kindergarten day. So, and as far as snacks too, that does happen in the afternoon most often with kindergartners, simply because lunch is so early and they do get hungry in the afternoon. So we kind of gauge that too, about where's the best time, and if it doesn't work, we might switch it just to make it better for the kids. So we are watching what their needs are as well.
And do you know if it's been decided what time lunch would be next year with the time change? I'm guessing we probably don't know that yet.
Nope.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So Kim, I'll have you start with this one. What will children be learning during their first year in kindergarten?
Yeah. Well,
Their kindergarten year, I should say. They'll only be in kindergarten 1 year.
Yeah. Well, we start off our year really, truly. We'll start knowing if they know the alphabet, but then the bigger part of our learning and reading skills are learning that they know the sounds that go with the alphabet. So that's a really important thing that you can help your child with throughout the summer as well, is like they might know A, but what's really the sound for A? So really encouraging that with the kids, so that is a big building foundation within kindergarten. And then we continue on and we start blending and making words and introducing the great stories and talking about all the different vocabularies as well, about different types of vocabulary. So don't be afraid to use those big words with your children and explaining what that is, because that helps build their foundation for reading as well. So, and then we continue on where their needs are. Some kids we have to have small groups to help build where they're at. And then we'll continue growing with the other children who might be a little bit more advanced and helping them along for where they're at in their reading. So,
do you want to mention the Vessel volunteers at all?
Oh yeah, they're wonderful. We do have Vessel volunteers who come in who are actually been trained here at Anderson. We've trained them specifically in the phonemic awareness and phonics skills. So they have games and activities that they can do. And then we help take the children who might need a little bit more extra support, and they'll take them and work with them as well with games and activities to help build their skills. So they're a really nice, integral part of our program. Yeah.
We can go. We can't hear you, Jenny, but we can go. So she covered reading, and I'll share, this is the first year that I've had Vessel volunteers. So we also trained them in it, but it depends on where they are and what the teachers need, that they will help accommodate and help the kids with. And then like in math, they're learning Number formation, they're learning number sense, meaning this group means 5, this number is 5. How do I make bigger numbers? How do we subtract? Shapes, things like that. In science, a lot of the units are a big part of the unit is, or math, science is the weather and predicting the weather and dressing for the weather and what does it look like outside and how do we prepare for storms. Another unit is about forces. So if I push or pull something, how does that change? And then you're going to add social emotional.
Yeah. So going off of the academic stuff, since they covered most of that, we also have a social emotional curriculum that teaches them a lot about just being a student and being kind to others in our school. So it teaches them things about like having empathy for others and recognizing what is an accident, how to speak up if something is bothering them, things like that. It's really helpful for them just to learn what it's like to be a kindergartner, because obviously it's brand new for them. So between that and just our general day of playing and working with others, a lot of the learning that they'll do that's not academic is just learning how to be a student in kindergarten.
Mm-hmm.
Wonderful. Thank you. We're going to jump over back to the parent panel. And Erin, I love how you sneak in behind you. But I'm going to start with you, Erin. What was your biggest fear and what was the reality?
I wrote down a bunch for this one. My biggest fears were, would he be ready? Like the skills, kind of what the teachers just talked about. And the teachers kind of met him where he was. And caught him up where he needed to be. Would he be able to figure out lunch and their number and all that? And they gave him a code with their lunch number on it. So they had that, so didn't have to worry about that. How he would survive without eating snacks all day. He survived. He adjusted. And then just figuring out the bus too was just another thing I was nervous about, but that all worked out. So
awesome. Thank you for sharing that. Brandon, how about you?
I guess we were kind of lucky in the sense that we didn't have too many fears. I mean, our son is usually pretty good about transitioning to new things. And so we didn't have too many big fears. I think our biggest one that we did have was just how he was going to behave. Like in his pre-K class, he and his friends had very high energy and they bounced off each other, and I think that was probably one of the reasons why they split those guys up, which was a good thing. We were happy about that. So we just weren't sure how he was going to behave, but so far all of the feedback that we're getting from his teachers and others is that he's being very well behaved. So I think that was the biggest thing for us.
Good. Thank you, Brandon. How about you, Tati?
I think my husband's fear, no, he was fine, but my fear was lunchtime. What happened at home is because I was a stay-at-home mom for 6 years. So I was constantly cooking for Joanna all the time. And I was thinking, oh my gosh, now she's going to kindergarten. How is she going to eat? Is she going to eat the lunch from the school? So I started the first week, I started like getting up early, cooking lunch, like good meals, right? Put in her lunch box, but she wasn't eating it. And I'm like, oh my gosh. She's like, I want to eat lunch from school. So I'm like, okay. And I had to go to work because I went back to work. So then I'm like, okay, I'm going to stop cooking, making those nice meals, and I'm going to let her eat lunch from school. Guess what? It worked. She was like happy telling me all about the lunch meals, and she was like, she gets like good meals there, fruits, vegetables, and other foods. She's like learning how to eat different foods. So she's happy. And I'm like, don't have to get up an extra hour to make her a lunch, like lunch meals. Yeah. So that was the biggest fear for me. she's done. She's fine. She's happy.
I love that. So often what our fears are end up not being reality. So thank you, you three, for sharing that. We'll do one more question to the parents before we jump back over to the teachers. What are some things, and Toddy, we'll start with you. What are some things you did ahead of time to support your child's transition to kindergarten? You mentioned some of these in your first response, but if there's other things you wanted to add to that too.
I think, again, going back to the staying home mom, our schedule was kind of crazy because, we just got up all the time, got out of bed a little bit later. So we have to work on our schedule. Getting up early was the biggest transition for us. It was hard at the beginning, but now we are used to it. So I was told to start in the summer, to change our schedule in the summer, around July, August. Don't wait too long. So it's recommended, and it worked. I mean, at the beginning we struggled a little bit because me too, I had to go to work and I have to get up at certain time. Everybody got to get ready, but at the end it worked out. So getting ready in the summer is the best thing that you can do. Just fix your schedule, start practicing your schedule, kind of like you're gonna be going to school in the summer, right? But it's just like the practice. Yeah, the schedule is the one that we worked really hard. Mm-hmm.
Thank you, Toddy. Brandon, how about you guys?
One thing that we did, we read a lot of books about kindergarten. There's a bunch of them out there. I can't remember the names offhand, but I'm sure if you Google it, you can find a bunch of books about kindergarten, children's books about kindergarten. I think there's several at the Stillwater library. So that helped just to kind of get them in the mindset and know what to expect. Let's see, I wrote down a couple things. Another thing that we did too is just we try to talk about kindergarten in a positive way, just to explain that it's new, but it's going to be fun. There's a lot of new things that you're going to be doing, like the art class and the music class. That's things that he absolutely loves and enjoys. And we talked that up and kind of hyped it up a little bit. And he was actually excited to go into kindergarten. He absolutely loves all of those classes. So that was some of the stuff that we did.
Awesome. Thank you, Brandon. How about you, Erin?
Yeah, we did a lot of the same that Brandon did. Just talked about it as much as possible so that he could ask questions if he had them. I think we also had him help pick out his backpack and lunchbox and kind of make it special of hey, you don't get to use this until school. And so he was excited to use that. Yeah, talked about what he would get to do at school, like gym class and art class and all those things that we don't do at home. He's here. Yeah, I think that's kind of all we did.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you. And to kind of piggyback off of that to the teachers now, and let's start with you, Kim. What recommendations do you have for parents to do between now and the first day of school to ensure a smooth transition to kindergarten?
Sure. I think the schedule thing is a very important thing to start establishing within the summer. I also feel like the Ready, Set, Go conferences are really important. It does establish a relationship right away with the teacher, and the comfort level for the first day of school is so much better for the kindergartners when they've made that connection ahead of time. So I think it's really important to kind of look at that schedule and try to make sure you can try and meet that scheduling time to meet with the teacher. I think that's very valuable. Some of the other little things would be just make sure that they're comfortable with the bathroom and comfortable with their supplies, and maybe even practicing shoe tying or zipping or some of those things that will help. Some of the little things too with kindergarten and transition will make it easier for them as well. So just some of the little things in that way. And reading, for sure, be reading every day to your children. Just making that the most important part of the summer, I think, would be the number one thing. It's just making it fun.
Thank you, Kim. Nick and Brigitte, what would you like to add to that?
Yeah, building off Kim's, I think my biggest one kind of builds off her shoe tying and zipping, which is just kind of building in independence for them and pushing for independence as much as is appropriate for a kindergartner, obviously, because if they're able to do things on their own, it just opens up a ton of other things for them. It helps them get through their day quicker. It helps them get to things quicker. It just makes the day a lot easier on them when they're able to do certain things like zip their coats, tie their shoes, take their lunch tray to the trash on their own without needing help every day. So anything like that where you can just push for independence is super, super helpful when they actually get into the kindergarten classroom.
And
So
for parents, go ahead.
Oh, go ahead. The things that I always push for are routine and independence. And so like the parents have shared and like Kim has shared, that routine in the morning especially is the hard one, right? Getting out the door. And so, yeah, establishing that midsummer and then would be best, I think. And then the independence. And so the things you can work on, like Nick mentioned, is like making sure they can carry their trays. So practice that. Have them take their dinner from their plate or from the table to the dishwasher or the sink. Have them start looking at their shoes. If ties are not what they can do because it's just too fine motor, then wear zip ups or wear Velcro or wear slip ons. There's no rule that says it has to be ties. It's that special time of year where mittens are way cooler than gloves, you guys. I can't emphasize this enough. Mittens are so much cooler than gloves. They're warmer and your child can get them on by themselves. So if you think about how hectic it can be getting out of your house, maybe sometimes, just imagine that with 20, I have 21 kids in my class right now, and they're all trying to find their things and then they're trying to put them on. And if they haven't practiced, it slows them down. And then they have to wait in line until the one teacher in the room can help each and every one of them. So every time they get ready, have them try zipping their coat. Have them try putting their own snow pants on, their own boots on. If you're going to pack lunches for them, make sure it's in containers they can open. If they have trouble peeling oranges, peel that orange for them and put it in a little container. If they're having a snack, make sure it's something they can open on their own. Those are all things that you can kind of help build into their day and build into their repertoire of skills they can do by themselves, and it will help them immensely in our classroom space.
Thank you. One thing that is super helpful in homes is, and we use this in classrooms too, is having a visual schedule for the morning routine, especially if that's going to be a bigger transition for your family. Now, some kids are already used to getting up and out the door pretty early because of childcare or preschool. But if that's new to you or it's been a challenge, all I do when I'm creating a visual schedule for somebody is I go into clip art images and kind of put what I want, and then I move it over into a Google Doc and just kind of keep adding. Print those off, cut them up. I tend to laminate them. You don't have to. And then just put them in the order that they need to go. And then as the parents, when you're trying to prompt your child to do what you're expecting them to do at the time, you can just say, oh, check your list. Instead of going down, did you brush your teeth? Did you get your shoes on? All of that. Just checking your list is better for their executive function skills, because then they're having to think about it a little bit more, and that's going to get ingrained in their memory and be able to have some more independence with that. Plus, children tend to get verbal reward, even if it's negative. If we're like, hurry up, do this, do that, like that's negative attention, but they don't really care if it's negative or positive. So the less words we can use when they're needing prompting to get things done, the better off that can be for them. So something to just let you know of here is we do offer family consultations through our ECFE program. So if you're ever wanting to meet with somebody, it tends to be me on schedules. Like say you're really struggling with a transition time in your household, I can meet with you one-on-one to help brainstorm some of that. We also offer some virtual classes for parents through our ECFE program that we kind of talk through some of those things as well. So please be watching for that if you feel like that's something that you'd like some support on in these next few months moving into kindergarten or beyond. So back to the parents, and Erin, can I start with you again? What was the hardest adjustment for Otto?
He did really well. I think the hardest was being gone all day. I stayed home with him since he was a baby, so we kind of are on our own schedule. So for him to go on a bus, be at school, it's really not all day, but it feels like it, and then come home. He was pretty exhausted, especially like that first month. So what we did was we didn't sign him up for any other activities that first semester. And I think that worked out really well. Just gave him time to relax after school. But otherwise, I think that was about all that he kind of struggled with.
That is great advice. I've heard that so many times from parents that they just, even if they were in childcare or preschool all day, that just it is different. They're kind of in charge a little bit more of having to keep track of things. There might be more kids in the class, and so they do tend to be pretty exhausted. So that's great advice to just kind of hold off on evening activities that first semester if you're able to. Brandon, how about you? What was the hardest adjustment for Julian, if there was one?
There was, and I kind of touched on this earlier. I think that it was just him trying to make friends. And he probably went a month and a half or 2 months where he would come home and he was sad. He loved school in general, but he just was sad that he didn't have friends. But we spoke to his teacher, and she actually said that he was really social in his class. So I don't know, must have been his perception or something. But like I said, she helped to kind of initiate some of those friendships. She put him in, like during group time, she put him with kids that he got along with, that she saw that he got along with, and now he has a bunch of friends. So I think that was the biggest adjustment.
Yeah. Brandon, thank you for sharing that piece about the perception, because I think that can happen a lot of times with kids where kids they might have just a different definition of what a friend is than what the rest of us might have. And so if your child is ever saying that they don't have friends, it's okay to check in with the teacher and like, hey, what are you observing? My son was like that. He very much always perceived that he didn't have friends, and he did. We saw it. So just sometimes there's just something that kids have a different definition. Toddy, how about you? For Joanna, what was the hardest transition or hardest adjustment?
I think it was getting up early in the morning, and then she was coming home tired at the beginning. I think it was like the first 2 weeks, it was just hard for her, the whole schedule. But she got used to it. I mean, now she comes home, I let her just do her regular activities, like playing on her own. Sometimes she just does her, I think it just like, it was the struggle a little bit the first 2 weeks, but we did well after that. Yes. Or she did well. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and something that I'm hearing in all three of you too is, I think you three all sound like you have some good confidence in your kids that they can be resilient. And I think when we can kind of have that belief in them, they are more likely to do that, right? Especially if, and sometimes we might have to convince ourselves a little bit, but I do think that can really, really help with kids. One last question for the teachers, and then we'll have one more for the parents, and then we'll open it up for a few questions. Let's start with Nick and Birgitta. What else would you like parents to know?
So I have two things about that. One is, I think Kim kind of touched on it a little bit, that you could be practicing letter sounds with your kids and things like that. And I will never discourage that. But another thing she touched on is making sure they're comfortable with the bathroom. And a teacher friend of ours always had this phrase, vowels before vowels. So meaning like, make sure that they can do that very independently on their own. We can't be in the bathroom with them unless, they're having an emergency. We can of course help, but in my room, the bathroom door locks and I can't get in unless I call a custodian down to help. So we want them to be confident and be able to do that in that space and not have accidents in school. Of course, they happen every now and then, but so that's kind of the one phrase she always said. And then the other thing I wanted to touch on was kind of what each parent sort of touched on, the beginning of the year will be exhausting for your child. And that's not out of the norm. It's the norm that it will be exhausting. So the idea of waiting on after school activities, I think, is great if your family can do that. Because we're having, like, they have to be on, if you will, for the whole day. They have to hold their emotions in check. They have to miss their mom quietly. They have to do all of these things that the teacher's asking them. Plus, they have all these other distractions around them that they're either joining in on or trying to ignore. We're pushing academics, we're challenging their brains and pushing them to do harder and harder things. And this is maybe one of the first times that they're doing that for a 6-hour stretch. And so when they come home, they might break down, they might be cranky, and they might be tired. And that's not something that's going wrong. That's just them holding it together all day and then hitting that safe space that is their home with their people, their grown-ups, their parents, their families, and all of a sudden they can let it go. I've had multiple parents cry when they've talked to me, like, what is wrong with my child? And it's not, there's nothing wrong. They are doing their best and they need to just let it go when they get home. So I really want that message to be out there that it is going to be tough and exhausting, but that's normal.
And it's normal for you as parents to also feel those big emotions as well. And that's okay, especially if it's your first child going through this. And never feel afraid to contact your teacher if you have something that you need to talk to them about or concern. We're there. We'll talk to you about that. Even if it has to be a quick email, we'll contact you and touch base with you. And one of the things that Jennifer said as well is your child's coming from a small environment right now with that preschool and then growing into that bigger class at probably double the size. They're all brand new faces. They're all going to probably be their best friends in about 2 months, but they need that time to connect and figure out what's school about. How do I do this? How do I walk in a line? How do I line up? How do I get in a circle? What do you mean I need to talk right now? I don't want to talk right now. They're in that circle. So there's a lot of things that we're pressing them on as well. And one of the things that we do have is quiet time that Brigida and Nick had mentioned as well. And during that time in quiet time, they can opt to take a time to just rest on the floor. And you can encourage that if they're really tired, like just take those 5-10 minutes that you have that you can just go rest as well. So just connecting with your child, seeing how they're feeling. And if you have any anxiety about it, contact us as well.
Wonderful. Oh yeah, go ahead,
Sorry,
Nick.
Jenny. One other thing I would say is just be cognizant, kind of what we talked about earlier, what the parents talked about earlier. Be cognizant of how you are projecting kindergarten with your student, because I think the emotions that you give off around kindergarten is how they're going to feel about it. So if you are confident in them and you tell them that it's going to be a positive thing and you talk about it in a positive way, they're going to have a positive experience. Yeah. I think just have confidence that your child is going to do well, and 99.999% of the time they will. I mean, it always works itself out. It always ends up going well in the end. If you're able to have a positive experience with it and give them a positive experience before they even start, they're going to do really well. So
that's great advice. That's something I definitely have observed too through the years with my own kids, but then just working with families. And Kim, what you said of just being willing to or being comfortable reaching out to your child's teacher, I wasn't a Stillwater school employee when my children were going through elementary school and middle school, and I was always received so well when I would just reach out with questions, and just teachers were always very prompt, very caring. I always felt like they knew my kids really well. And I think that it's great because sometimes we might have a worry about something of what might be going on at school, and that worry might not match at all what's really happening. And so to be able to reach out and like, hey, this is something they're talking about, or this is something I've been worried about, what can you tell me? And then it's like, oh, okay, that's all it was. So
I hear that too. Is this normal for typical kindergarten?
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, we can help affirm that or let you know that too.
Very much so. I want to take just 1 minute each for Toddy, Brandon, and Aaron. You don't have to take the full minute, but what other advice would you offer the parents here today? And Toddy, let me start with you.
I think the biggest advice that I can give is to have rules and routines at home. Read books all the time before your kids go to sleep, and just talk about positive about the schools. Talk about that it's gonna go well. Just show them that you are happy that they're going to school. Just be positive, and everything is gonna be okay.
You. How about you, Brandon?
Yeah, Toddy nailed it. That's a big thing. And another thing, the teachers already said this as well, but if you're running into any challenges or have questions, just rely on your teachers, rely on the school staff. We've had to work with the school psychologist or the counselor about different things, and they've just been really super supportive and very helpful, and just help us getting through some of those challenges that are normal. So, yeah.
Wonderful. Thank you. How about you, Aaron?
Yeah, I was going to say the same thing about just keeping that communication with the teacher about any concerns. We also went through speech, and I just brought up the concern, and it was like, no big deal. Sure. Yep. We'll have a speech therapist evaluate him. I mean, it was just, I was worried about it, and it was no big deal. So, any concern, or if he came home talking about so-and-so was picking on me, blah, 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 I could reach out to the teacher, and they explained it, exactly what happened, not just from the kid's point of view. So just kind of helped with the anxiety of things.
Wonderful. Thank you. I have a couple questions coming up in the chat that I wanted to address. And Brigitte, Nick, or Kim, if you see a question in the chat that you want to add to or have an answer to, I'm thinking the question that is on here from Stephanie, I wonder if one of you teachers might be able to answer that. And while you're thinking on that, I'll answer the transition to K handout for children with special needs to the best of my knowledge. So typically what that looks like is your kind of go-to teacher in early childhood special ed will be in communication with the team that the child would be moving on to at kindergarten. Now it's going to depend a little bit on the needs that they have, right? If it's maybe something like speech, there might not need to be as much communication being passed on, but if it's something bigger where they're getting maybe multiple services, it might be a bigger handoff. What I have heard from families that have done that transition, children with special needs, that it has gone very smoothly. Our team at the Early Childhood Family Center is in close communication with the special ed teachers throughout the other buildings, and seem to do that really well. Kindergarten teachers, do you feel like I'm speaking the truth or what you've experienced too? I see Kim nodding, I see nodding.
Kim, maybe you want to add about the transition meetings too, since you've been a part of those before.
Oh yeah, that would be wonderful. Thank you.
So they've happened before the school year begins at the end of the year previous. And so we will meet the children and talk to the parents about all the special needs that they have and what will work for them and what the transitions are, and going over the IEPs, whatever those needs are. So we're fully aware of what's coming in, and then we can have time to process that too and help your child the best way we can. So
wonderful.
And we should mention, like, this is for kids who have been identified. So if your child already has that IEP, that paperwork, that identification, then they would have this handoff.
Yes.
If you have concerns and your child is entering, but they haven't been addressed prior, then the contact would be your classroom teacher. That would be who you're talking to first. And then we can help you, direct you, or we can help, like Aaron said, we can talk to our speech therapist and they can come in and maybe assess and see what's going on.
Wonderful. Thank you. Would one of you be able to answer the question that Stephanie has in here? Kim, you were nodding before. Do you want to take that one?
Sure. I mean, I think the biggest thing about it is if you feel your child is bullying, it's first reach out to your teacher right away and let them know what's going on, because sometimes we're not aware of it. We're not where it's coming from. And so it's good to hear what's happening with your child. And then if there's some extra people who might need you to come and help with it, we will contact those people, and we'll do everything we can within our classroom to talk to your child as well, to encourage them to come and talk to the teacher. We'll work with the students in the classroom. If it's bigger than that, we will reach out to other staff members to come in and help too. So.
Yeah, and I'd say we have something called the green room, which again is part of responsive classroom, and in there, either in my school, the green room pair might come down and find the child that they need to talk to, or they might go to the green room and have a discussion down there, and they would do a problem solving conference, they call it. So they would be talking through the help of an adult, be talking through the problem, finding out what's happening. Is it truly bullying? How can we stop this? When is it occurring? Are there any trigger? Whatever it is, they'll try and work through that. But it sounds like you had mentioned like your daughter might not be bringing these things up. So if they are coming home and talking to you, just like Kim mentioned, they might not be talking to us. They might not be quite as comfortable. So please, please, please reach out.
Yes.
Thank you. First of all, we have about 4 minutes left, and I want to make sure that I'm respectful of the parents and the teachers' time. So we'll answer one more question, and then if the teachers the rest of you need to hop off, I could stay on to answer more questions if I'm able to. But again, I just want to, all of you parents on here, just hopefully you're feeling gratitude for the teachers that have taught kindergarten all day and are giving of their time tonight. So one of you kindergarten teachers, would you just talk a little bit more about the social emotional curriculum that you mentioned?
Yeah, and this kind of goes maybe kind of to Stephanie's question a little bit too. It's called Second Steps, and there's two kind of pieces of it. There's a whole part about just being a student. So what does listening look like? What does learning look like? How am I using my brain to focus? How am I challenging my brain? And then there's another unit that's specifically around bullying. And so this would be where we work to identify bullying, we work how do we respond to bullying, and then how do we refuse bullying. And so all of those, and how do we report it. So all of those things give the students the vocabulary, the tools that they need when they're in the classroom. And also if they're in such a situation where they see someone being mistreated or they feel like they're being mistreated. It also helps give them the vocabulary, the understanding of what some different feelings are. So we go through naming the feelings. What does that look like? What does that feel like in your body? And what are some strategies for how we can work through those feelings, some appropriate strategies?
Another part of that too is we also do responsive classroom, which also encourages all the positive things like interacting with students and how do we talk to each other in the games, and just that positive piece of trying to build that with children as well, with our language and how we interact with each other.
And how you all mentioned earlier, starting with the morning meeting. When I've observed the morning meeting, it very much feels like a family meal time. Like you're not eating together at the time, but just like that's respectful communication. It's a time to kind of feel grounded, which I guess not every family meal feels like that to people, but just kind of that goal is grounding, and I very much feel that when I'm able to observe that. I can start to answer. There was another question on here too about are there opportunities to challenge kids who, for example, already know their ABCs? And for sure, I had one of my own kiddos who didn't know many of his letters, honestly, when he started kindergarten. And then my other one, when she started, was already reading, and both of their needs were very, very much met. There's been so much training through our school district on differentiating curriculum and just really meeting kids where they're at. And Erin even talked to that as far as, she mentioned that kind of in one way where her child was met, but that's very much met on the opposite end of that spectrum as well. And so that's a big part of the Ready, Set, Go conferences that will be offered. It's kind of the week. Kindergartners, I can't remember. Just you'll sign up for it. You'll sign up for it before, and it's kind of like a conference, but it's a time for your child to get to know the teacher, but also it gives the teachers a chance to kind of assess where your kid is at developmentally, and then they can just kind of jump into learning when they start. I promised you all I would stick to the time, and it is 9 o'clock. So I want to, first of all, say thank you very much to Birgitta and Nick. You guys get to go back to your baby now. Maybe he's already in bed, but thank you very much, Kim. Thank you very much. It was my first time actually meeting you today. I will see you three again on Monday night for our in-person session. And Toddy, Brandon, and Aaron, thank you very much for your time. I really appreciate you volunteering to be here. And as we mentioned, well, you are all on here, so you don't need to watch the recording after, but if you're talking to other people in the community that are disappointed that they missed this, maybe they didn't notice when it was going to be, please let them know that we did record it. Chris, where will this be landing?
I will put it on our YouTube channel.
Great.
And probably on our kindergarten page on the website
Okay.
too. Yeah.
Thank you. And if you could send me the link when that is ready, then I had a couple people email during this time saying that they ended up not being able to make it on, and I can send it to them directly. So thank you all for being on here. I can stay on a couple minutes. We can stop recording at this point, but I want to let go of the parents and the kindergarten teachers. So thank you guys.